It's now time for Monster Soup, with your really fun at parties host, Dave Spencer, and his level-headed co-host, Brian McKinney. These dudes will explore all the crazy mysteries roaming off forest and deserted hallways. After all, monsters are real. It's Monster Soup time right now. Get it while it's hot. Now your hosts, Dave and Brian.
Hello. Welcome to Monster Soup, a kitchen of conversation, cryptids, and these kids. I am David Spencer, your golden retriever host, and with me is, as they call him, Mr. Bungalow and the Naked Puzzle Basement, or as we call him, Brian McKinney. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. The names are getting longer, week to week.
They're gonna, at one point it'll be a full paragraph. But yeah, so welcome. If you're joining us live, happy Friday to you. Friday at 5 is every week. We join us on YouTube or live or however you're watching it. I think it's other places as well. So thanks for joining us. If you have any quandaries or things you want to talk about with us or come on the show, it is Monster Soup Podcast at gmail.com and obviously and all that stuff. But yeah, so this week we have on our very special friend. And she's going to talk to us all fun stuff. And I'd like to welcome to the show, Casss. Hello, Casss.
Hello.
Hey, Casss. Doing great.
Fantastic.
How's life up north?
Up north, it's cold and snowy, and there's just polar bears roaming the streets and all that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I should probably clarify. My accent does make it sound like I live in England, but I don't. I live in Canada now. So there's no polar bears in England, not that I know of.
Yeah.
I actually wonder. I was like, wait, do you have? Because I don't know anything about Canada really. And I'm like, do they have polar bears there? That was a dumb thought.
Not in this part of Ontario, no.
Yeah, it's pretty cold and snowy here in the greater Cleveland area.
Oh, I heard you guys got snow and you're not coping.
Yeah,
we got a snow day. This week. The kids did. It was very exciting for them.
But yeah, the last couple of winters have been pretty mild for us. We're used to cold and we get a lot of the lake effect snow coming out of Lake Erie. So snow's nothing new to us, but it's been light the last couple of years. And then the entire month of January, we've been like 20 degrees below normal. We're getting lots of snow. Just kind of stinks.
Yikes.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? It's all good.
Well, I think traditionally you get some skates and a stick and you skate around and hit things with a stick. That's how it's done up here.
Yeah.
Well, we don't take to hockey around here.
Not as much. Yeah, we're still more football, baseball.
I think it's like a national holiday there. Am I wrong?
It's like football because your football is not football.
That's true. That's true.
We don't even use our feet to hit the ball.
It's not even a ball.
Yeah.
We do it when there's some kicking.
Yep.
There's 1 second of kicking, and that's all we got. Which speaking of, tonight, my wife invited everybody over to watch the Ohio State game. And I was like, I have a cookie exchange party to go to. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Even Brian's coming over too to watch the football game.
Party at the Spencers, except Dave won't be there.
Yep. And I was just like, I gotta go eat some cookies. So if I don't leave that party if I don't leave that party and don't have diabetes, I've done it wrong. So I'm gonna leave without a foot. It's gonna be great. I'm very excited about it. I don't know. I like the people I work with. We hang out. We do things. So that's what I do. But yeah. So, Brian, you had some fun news. Breaking news, everybody.
Yeah, I saw on the BFRO website we had a Bigfoot sighting about an hour away from where Dave and I live, down in Mansfield. And Casss, I think you've been to Mansfield, haven't you? When you came down to go to
the prison is?
Where the prison is, yeah.
There was a Bigfoot sighting there.
Yeah, right, not too far from the prisons. A couple, some hunters were out setting up a deer stand, getting ready to go hunting, and I guess they saw, across the field, big open field, what appeared to be some sort of bipedal large man or Bigfoot. They couldn't really tell. They didn't have of course, stuff, any camera or anything with them, but I guess they were just setting up the tree stand. They didn't have intentions of staying and hunting that night. They were just prepping for the morning. I guess it was right around like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So it was just about to get dark here in Ohio, but it was still light enough that they could see it, going across the field. And I guess filed a report. And I guess there's been some sightings down that way, in the past. But they said whatever it was really big and covered a large field, very quickly, like faster than a person would do it or anything like that. But they went out and the BFRO investigated it and deemed it a Class A credible sighting. So that was kind of big news for us, not too far from where we're at.
And I will say that there was a addendum on the sighting that the person that's land it's on is like, don't come here. So to all you people who are like, where was it at? I need to go. Don't. He doesn't want you on his land. He's over it already. It's been about 5 hours. And he's like, please don't.
He didn't seem that excited. Yeah, that his address was put online, basically.
Yeah. So everybody who already has their bag packed, put your bag down, take your hat off. I'm sure you have a hat on. Take it off, put it back in the stand. Just chill. He doesn't want you there. Because I'm pretty sure that people live in the country are not, or they have certain ways to keep people off their land, and it's not very fun. It always ends badly. Yeah. So I don't know. But get a long lens, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. I won't tell you what to do. And then you also had what was the other one?
Yeah, I saw down in Fort Lauderdale there was a TV report where there was it was a private jet with like a pilot, co-pilot, and stewardess flying back from flying over the Bahamas. I'm not sure if they were coming from the Bahamas, but they got a call from Fort Lauderdale air traffic control asking them if there's been some reportings of something unidentified up in the air, and they were able to find it. And I guess there was like some sort of an orb, or they have video of it from the airplane. The stewardess got it with her cell phone, and it looks like a big white / greenish orb that was flying up above them and was flying with them for like 45 minutes, and they were flying at like 45,000 feet. They're like, there's nothing else up here except other aircraft who are all reporting seeing this thing. And I can't remember the name of the news station, but it was like like Fort Lauderdale TV news, like a local report that they did on it, and they were talking to the FAA and some other people trying to figure out what this thing was. But it was pretty cool. There's video along with it too, so if you Google it or something, it was like Fort Lauderdale UFO sighting. Yeah,
if you want to know what it looks like, it's a circle. And it's dark.
It glows. Yeah, it's exactly what you picture it to look like in your head.
Yeah, and then there's a reporter who definitely probably doesn't believe what she's reading, and she's like, "All right, so." There's probably an audible sigh like right before she starts saying stuff because. Listen, I get it.
Yeah. They're like, Jan, you're on the UFO story today. And she's like, oh, man, I got to do the UFO
I know more pop pieces. I interviewed a dog last week. Now I'm doing the UFOs. Yeah. This is crap. And I high-fived a little kid after he pooped his pants. She can't catch a break, that lady.
I know. But yeah, so
you know what? I don't want to judge a book by its cover. Maybe she's like totally into it. She's like, oh, give me the juicy one. Like, you want the murder? She's like, no, I want the UFO piece. Put it on my desk.
Yeah. Someone's got to break that story, But yeah.
Been working on it for years.
The two, relatively new stories that aren't, just tons of drones everywhere, which is still totally in the news. I don't know if that's ever going to stop, but it certainly died down as far as people freaking out about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's been like the biggest story, and then also people I feel like are just completely over it at this point. I think the main crux of it all is just people are like, I still got to go to work tomorrow, so I have to move on. And I think a lot of people are like, they're suppressing now. It's like, no, you've just kind of like, you can only talk about that in like the zeitgeist with like no movement, because it's just like there's drones. It's like, yeah, we know. No one said anything about it.
Yes.
It's like we just keep getting reports. So like they're not like changing the information. It's like there's drones, and then the next day it's not like, oh, we caught one. It's just like there's still drones. It's like, all right, well, that's what you said yesterday. So.
Yeah. Cass, is there any sightings or anything up there in Ontario area, or are you guys just hearing about
there have been some, yeah. I haven't seen any video footage. I've only seen people on Facebook saying they've seen one. So, it's not an entirely reliable source. But, people are seeing them all over, so maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's no flare up.
Yeah. And then not too far from us down in the Dayton area, a couple hours south of us, the Dayton Air Force Base had to shut down for, was it like a week or two ago? They had a couple of drones flying over to where they had to shut down aircraft coming in and out of the Air Force Base.
Was that regular drones, or was that like the drones that we're talking about?
I don't know.
Oh,
they didn't give too much information other than they had cut, traffic coming in and out because they had unidentified objects over the Air Force Base. But yeah. So who knows?
I don't know. I have a new segment that I wanted to introduce, and it's called High Thoughts. maybe I'll make a prompt of this at some point. Where it's just, I'll do it right now. Actually, I'll do the promo right now. It's gonna sound something like that. It'll sound like a Dr. Dre song, and then it'll go right into that. So I had a stupid idea today. By the way, Cass, so this would be when I say something and you don't judge me for how stupid it is. That's what I consider a high thought. Because you have to, as long as you prelude it to like, that's dumb. I was just thinking today, I was just like, just about the human race and like how we're always just like a little too hot. And it's just like, I feel like if the person who made the universe was like, well, what if I didn't give them, what if they never got hungry? And then they just like didn't do anything all day because they didn't have to. They're like, well, I'll just sit here then. Mm-hmm. They're like, well, that's too much, or that's too little. Like they're not doing anything. So like dial it up, and then like whatever. But like that universe still has to go forward. Like so it still has to live out its like eternity of like whatever that would be until like extinction of like that universe. So like it's like a multiverse idea of like where the like whiny universe like it's so hot, I'm hungry, like we're that universe, but we still have to complete our full cycle of life before it's just over. And then there's like one that person who created the universe like got right, that's like not a bunch of crying people, like whiny people. Like they're just like, oh, everything's fine. Yeah, like actually we figured out teleportation and everything's really working. It's just like this one, we just can't get our head straight. We're filled with like just like idea noise. We're like, well, what if the government's coming for my house? And you're like, you work at Walmart, Jan. You're fine. You'll be cool. Everything's fine.
I thought this was like a hypothetical, high thought. Were you really high this afternoon?
No,
I'm confused now.
No, it's my high thought in the fact that like it's dumb, but like I wasn't high. I did have about 5 cups of coffee at that point, but that's just a normal.
That explains it. Yeah.
It's usually it's just consumption of a lot of coffee, and then after that, I'm like, I'm just like, well, what if? And that's when my Google history gets really weird. It's just like, it's like Patrick Bateman dressed as the Cookie Monster. T-shirt. Just like dumb stuff like that. So then I'm just like, and then they'll actually so I order things sometimes and I forget about them, specifically when I get them from Etsy and they take like a long time, or eBay, because it's just packed by some random person. But I forgot I ordered this and I'm very excited about it. And it's a Garbage Pail Kids card. It's what is it called? Screamin' Spencer. Look at that.
There you go.
Which I mentioned to the people I work with, and they go, "What are the Garbage Pail Kids?" And I was like, "Am I that old?"
Yeah, they're clearly all younger than we are.
Yeah. So what are you gonna do?
I mean, that was our Pokemon,
Yeah, like with that and Mars Attacks, and there was one called I think it was called Dinosaur Attacks, which I personally really love. It was basically the same idea of a monster attack, but it was just dinosaurs, and they were just ripping people apart. And I was like, this one's cool. I was 9. It was very formative in my childhood of what I enjoyed. So Cass, I wanted to talk about your cool story that you told me one time. And you can tell it in its entirety about the doorbell thing. I know it isn't like a huge story that you were like, oh, it's not a lot to it, but I thought it was very interesting. So,
well, I mean, it doesn't take very long to tell. It takes a lot longer to come up with theories about what the heck it could be.
Which is that's where we're gonna have the fun. Yeah.
So yeah, I live in Canada now. I'm from the UK originally. We moved here 3 years ago. And we have an 1860s farmhouse on 5 acres of land. And it's on a crossroads, so it's immediately spooky, because crossroads are spooky, right? The house is set far back from the road, probably about 50 meters. I'm sorry, I don't know what that is in football fields or feet or whatever you guys.
How many bald eagles is that?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
I'm making my calculator out here.
Yeah, do that. So one morning, it was a Sunday morning, and my husband had gone out to play hockey because he's Canadian and that's what they do. And he was playing ridiculously early, like 8 o'clock in the morning or something. So he had to leave it like not long after 7. So he'd gone off to play hockey, and I was awake but still in bed. So I was like scrolling through Reddit or something, just like not being bothered to get up because it was a Sunday morning. And then the Ring doorbell camera popped up on my phone. And this was like a good half an hour after he'd already left. So I was definitely alone. The kids were asleep upstairs. So the Ring doorbell thing popped up on my phone, someone at the door. And I was like, oh, crap, because I'm still in bed in my pajamas. And I looked, and the man on the camera was dressed all in black, but like work clothes. So like, what you would wear to do any kind of trade job, like or like what I would wear around the farm, and he was all in black, and he had a black baseball cap, and he was looking down, so I couldn't see his face, but he was moving, so I could tell it was like a live film of what was going on my porch. And immediately I thought, oh crap, it's Cole that's come to do our bathroom. He's a friend of ours in the nearest town, and he's done like a lot of handiwork for us.
Oh, I know Cole.
You do? You know Cole? He's a great guy, isn't he? And I thought, oh crap, it's Cole, and he's come to finish off the bathroom, and like I'd just forgotten he's coming. So I quickly jumped out of bed and pulled a jumper on over my pajamas and ran to the front door, which takes all of about 10 seconds. And I opened the front door, which didn't have a window in at the time. Opened the front door, nobody's there. And I was like, that's very okay. The way my house is laid out, like we have the house itself isn't very big. It's surrounded by open space. There's nowhere to go. We have a barn, but it's like far enough away that you couldn't run there, even at a full sprint in the time it takes for me to get from my bed to the front door. There's nowhere he could have gone. So I'm like looking around. There's no car in the yard. And there's nowhere to walk to from our house. Like we're way out.
Yeah. I was gonna say you don't have. I remember you. You had told me like, or no, you had actually showed me a picture of your house like from the aerial view, and there's literally nowhere you could go that wasn't like, oh hey, you wearing all black. Like
our nearest neighbor's probably about half a kilometer away. So you could walk here, but you wouldn't be able to run away from the front porch in 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So I was sort of, in shock because I'd been scared into running to the front door in my pajamas to someone that I didn't know that well. And also just like now very confused because I couldn't figure out what had happened. And it wasn't until the shock had worn off a bit that I started realizing some things. First of all, we have a long gravel driveway. I can hear cars, and my bedroom window, the one that's right next to my bed, looks out onto the driveway. And in the winter, when there's no leaves on the trees, I can see cars coming up and down the driveway and hear them. I didn't hear anything. We have dogs that won't shut up, as you can hear. They didn't say anything, and like they would normally bark if they hear a leaf drop, like in the yard, So the dogs didn't make any sound. There wasn't any car sound, and also it was cold as heck outside. And this guy on the front porch wasn't wearing a coat, which was very strange. Yeah. Like if he just walked from his car to the front door, he would have been fine. But no coat to me was strange.
Especially because you're saying he's wearing like worker clothes, so like he's going to be like, he's not doing that to just your house, he's doing it to like every house. So if it was like just a legitimate worker, he's like, I'm wearing my coat today because I'm doing a door to door. And if he's not doing that, then it's like, why wouldn't he be dressed the way he's supposed to be dressed?
Yeah, so a lot of things weren't adding up, and so I went back onto my phone and scrolled through the recorded footage, and the only thing on there was my husband leaving for hockey, and he's got this huge red Parker, like in a big hockey bag. You can't miss him, right? So I definitely didn't mistake this guy for anyone else.
And your husband would have been leaving, not standing there, like facing the door.
So I'm at a complete loss. So I immediately did the most obvious thing, which was to go into the group chat and say, you won't guess what just happened to me. Oh my God. And then went and posted about it on the Astonishing Legends Facebook group to see if anyone had any theories about what was going on. And my friend Marco made a good point, saying, if it had been an old guy in like old farmer clothes, you'd think it was a ghost of the guy that used to live here, right? It's an old farm.
Yeah.
But it was modern clothes. So
maybe we're right at the precipice of people not dressing like old timey anymore. Like the ghosts have like updated the wardrobe. They're no longer like an old Victorian boy, like I'm so tired. They're like, it's just a regular guy now.
Yeah, it's just some ghost from the 90s, like
he's wearing Heelys, he's got like frosted tips, he's got a Limp Bizkit t-shirt on. We're here to pick up your daughter.
So, I was trying everyone I could think of. I was asking them, got any ideas about this? I remember tweeting Rob Christopherson, because he knows all about Men in Black, right? And I was like, are there any kind of Men in Black that are more kind of, blue collar outfits rather than nice suits? And he didn't know anything about that either. So I'm just, I don't know. I got nothing.
You're like, is there a casual Friday in for the Men in Black? It's like the most they dress down is like more of like a blue collar, as opposed to like button up.
I just haven't got a clue what it could be.
That's a great story. I love that.
Have you? I don't have a ring. I think I'm the only one that doesn't have one at this point. But do you ever get any kind of like technical glitches or pick up a signal from somebody else's house? I mean,
I haven't before. I did wonder that, but it was definitely my porch on the
Did you scroll the whole day? Because you're able to scroll the whole day and like
I scroll back because it goes in like reverse chronological order or something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the only thing from that day was my husband leaving for hockey.
Okay, so that was the only blood.
Yeah.
I mean, I always wonder. I just don't know how that like. It's weirder that you saw him on the ring. I think more than anything, like like because you can hear a doorbell ring and that or a doorbell and like that would make like sense to it. But the fact that they like manifested in like an image that was like able to be captured and then just disappear is wild to me. But I guess is that common? I can't think of how common that is. As far as like,
I feel like there must be like more with technology being so prevalent now. You would think there'd be more and more of these kind of stories, right?
Yeah, it would be cool if you were able to like flip back on that moment and know what's about to happen, and then see if there was anything like off about them, like like because you wouldn't have known. You'd be like, oh, there's a guy at my door. I'll go get the guy. Like because in a million years you wouldn't have thought like that guy's not gonna be there when I get there. He's at least gonna be walking away. So you could have figured out like maybe they just didn't get something right or something. His fingers are too long, which would be terrifying. Just 9-foot fingers.
Yeah.
You're here to check your gas.
Like 3 feet away from the door, touching the doorbell.
Just terrifying. Black eyes, like something crazy. But did you check any of the like records of like are you the first owner or
of this house? Oh no,
Yeah.
it's old.
It's sat empty since 1860s until they moved.
No, well, as far
After
as
the
we
accident.
know, it's 1860s,
Yeah.
1868, I think. The old part of the house is log built, so it's like literally just huge, big tree trunks.
Wow.
With a stone foundation and a dirt floor cellar, you know, that kind of thing. And then it does have a new extension from the 1980s, and that's where the front door is.
Mhm.
So
That's wild.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
because like you said before, even if it was another owner from anywhere along the way, they still wouldn't be dressed, modern like that. If you're
right.
thinking it was like even a ghost of somebody, it didn't have to be somebody from 1860, but it still would have been somebody modern.
Yeah, I mean,
dressed like that.
I have met two of the previous owners.
Oh, really?
But I didn't want to start off the conversation with like, "Hey, something really weird happened to you when you lived here," because
You know,
I don't want to.
I totally get
I have
that.
a kind of reputation for myself, right?
Yeah, and they're usually a little older. Like when you run to them, you don't want to be like, because they're usually not on board with like the sauce that you're cooking. You're like, what about this? And you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Never mind, this conversation's over.
Well, you never know. They may have known that the house was haunted or something, did disclose it, and now they're waiting for you to say something.
Maybe.
Well, you know what would be even more terrifying is she brought it up, or they brought it up, or they were like, have you seen anything? You're like, what do you mean? Do you get the door? Do you get the knocks on the door too? You're like, oh god, like that would be like conversation ending, like, well, not that we actually conversation starting like scary. I mean, like, because I remember being sad that like this house wasn't haunted because it's old.
Well, nothing else weird has happened to me, but my son has seen and heard a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh, really?
And every time he tells me, I'm like, please stop telling me this stuff. Like, I have to live in this stuff.
Yeah. When you leave, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Hanging out. You're just walking around.
I think the creepiest one he told me is that he heard my husband and I talking in the hallway. We weren't here. We were out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't like that at all.
Oh, I don't like, I don't, absolutely not.
And he had a kid laughing in his closet. I'm like, okay, good luck with that one. Like,
no, thank you. You should just like, you don't even go into his room anymore. Like, can you kiss me good night? I'm good. You can come out in the hall though.
Is it always when he's in his room that he hears?
Well, I mean, he's a teenager, so he spends most of his time in there anyway. So, but he did say that he saw a shadow behind him. Like the hallway upstairs has a window at one end. So when you're at the top of the stairs, the lights coming from behind you and the shadows are in front of you. And he said that he saw a shadow behind him and felt someone tried to push him down the stairs. Ooh. So now I've got to go and beat up a ghost somehow. I don't know how I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Go all mama bear on the ghost.
Yeah.
Like, you're punching him with like gauntlets you made of sage. It's like, it's like, get over here.
But it's weird too, because like in the mystery of it, not knowing what it was, because if it was a ghost and you're like, hey, it's fine, there's a ghost, my house is pseudo haunted, but nobody's getting hurt or whatever. But the fact is, you don't know if that was a ghost on your front porch, so that just makes it even more frightening that you're like, I don't even know what that was.
It's strange though, because I'm not afraid of it. I think just because what's that thing, paranormal, I've forgotten the word now. Forrest talks about it on Astonishing Legends. Apathy. Like when something so weird happens that you just go, eh.
Yeah. It's strange. I mean, as far as I've known, nobody has been killed, from a ghost. So you could just kind of be like, I mean, obviously it's scary because you can't see it, and the unknown is always scary. But like, if it's non-malicious, you could just kind of like live with that and and just be like, as long as it's not pushing your son down the stairs. Would you just be like, hey, bro, not cool, man. You can live here, but you can't do that.
You're like, if anybody's pushing him down the stairs, it's going to be me. He's been a real jerk today.
Yeah. He's got his emo
I feel like there must be more spooky stories that are based around technology now and cameras and things. There's got to be more. So I'd love to hear some more. Like if anyone listening to this has got one.
Yeah, me too.
Or has heard one.
I I wonder if a lot of people like write them off too, because like, you know, technology is so like it can be glitchy, so you probably can be like, oh, I'm, you know, like you were saying, Brian, it was like, did you pick somebody else's ring up, you know, or something like that. For somebody who doesn't live in the country, if you live in like closed spaces, it's easy to write off like all the noises that would happen, which I actually assume that like a lot of people who live in like condensed areas probably do have hauntings. They just write off as like, oh, that's just the upstairs neighbor, because everything's just always so loud. I mean, my house, like I'm surrounded by people, so like, you know, I don't live in an apartment, but I live in like a, you know, an area with people in it, so it's just like I just assume that the person out front, if I would have had that same situation happen, the exact same situation, I would assume they're just down the street a little bit, because you know, we have solicitors all the time that are like, oh, you want a new roof? And I'm like, no. And then they'll just jump to the next house, and they can disappear pretty quickly, depending on if they're like, oh, I went around back of this house, so like I wouldn't even thought twice about it. You know, and then if you see, by the way, I got reminded of this because I saw 2 coyotes this weekend. This is a non sequitur. I saw two coyotes this week. I was walking my dog in the park, and I was just letting her kind of run because she's been so antsy lately. Just like, I need to do. I'm like, it's so cold out. I don't want to take you for a walk. And she's like, she's old. She's like, I gotta go outside. I'm like, all right, let's go for a walk. And we go into the woods, and then like by my house, and I just see 2 dogs, and I'm like, oh, where's the owner? And then I get a little closer. I'm like, oh, those are coyotes. And then I was like, oh. You know what? I didn't feel as bad because one time I thought the coyotes was a lost dog, and I tried to feed it cheese. So I was like running around my neighborhood with like a block of cheese, and I'm like, come here, buddy. And then my neighbor texts me, and she's like, that's a coyote, you idiot. Like, oh, I look like a husky. It was like pretty big, and I've never seen a coyote in person. I just assumed they were kind of fox sized. And because I live in the city, you know, I don't really see a lot of but like we have a park that's like pretty close that has a lot of wildlife, but I just never have seen the coyotes. And apparently they're well fed because they're regular dog size. And I saw two of them, and I was like, you know what? Those are regular dogs. Like, I don't care what you say. Those are dogs. But yeah, they don't like cheese, and they won't come up to you. They will run away. So that's a little fun fact. Not secular. So
we'll have to update the Wikipedia page for wolves. You know, right at the top. Don't like cheese.
Yeah, the coyotes. Yeah, they don't like cheese.
Oh yeah, coyote. Not wolves.
All right, sorry, I didn't mean to jump topics, but yeah. So like I'm living around this area, like I bet just like a lot of people just have stuff, and they're just like, oh yeah, that was just, you know, or you know, like you were saying with technology, people just like having something happen with their phone that maybe like there's been stories of like people seeing things, trying to take a picture of it, and then that information just deleting itself from your like entire phone, which I do not understand how that works. Because like to do that just doesn't make any sense as far as like those specific photos. Like, do they stop time, go into your phone, access it, take it out, or because it's never like it's fully rubbed. It's not like oh, my phone doesn't work anymore. It's just like the photos from today are gone. It's just like they know how to work iCloud. I don't understand that. That just never makes sense to me. But it's very interesting. So I don't know.
And then you get so many people who, you know, take the picture, and then because they see something, and then that thing's just not there anymore. You know, the picture's still there, but whatever they were trying to photograph isn't there. But like with you on your ring, it was there. You could see it. The camera picked it up. You know,
but it didn't record it.
Yeah,
which is just very weird.
Like why didn't it record it? Did you see any missing time there? Was there like a block of time? Because I mean, it's pretty common for like that time to be there. It's just not there.
I don't think so.
I mean, I guess that'd be getting like really analytical. I guess you'd be like, oh, let's check the timestamps. You're getting all red strings about it.
I'm not sure about that. I just remember looking and seeing the video of my husband leaving for hockey, and then that was it. So
yeah,
it was just very strange.
But whatever it was enough to trigger, you know, the ring to alert you that something was there. You know.
Our neighbor Rick, he I need to have mine because he always tells me about his daughter and how she's like, I don't like to go by that house. I see people in the windows there, and they're like, what? I'm like, it's the scariest thing to hear. Like, just like, you know, like there's nobody in the windows there. She's like, I don't like it. But yeah, just it's like weird old haunt. I mean, we live in a very old neighborhood, like us specifically. We're in like old area, so it's just like all the like old money and stuff, and all the houses are just like really cool and built like the 1800s. So you think it'd be chock full of ghosts, but we personally don't have any. It's just an old boring house that no one ever died in.
Yeah.
There were crocodiles that lived here though at one point.
Yeah, I know that's crazy.
Crocodiles.
Yeah. Well, the lady who used to live in my house used to be a one of the, I don't want to say park rangers, but she was like a wildlife something. But she had a leopard. I won't say a leopard. That sounds wrong though. No, a cougar in our backyard, which we couldn't figure out. There was a cage in our backyard that we were like, this is a weird cage. Like if because it had a little bit of a gap in the back, but like if something was big, it was just a weird size and a weird position. And we're like, what was this for? And we got rid of it because we're like, we don't need a cage. We didn't need this cage. It wasn't like a cage if you're thinking like for I don't know, to keep like children or something. It was an obvious animal cage that was like built, but like kind of coopy. But like it was like if you put a chicken in there, it'd be able to get out because it's just kind of open in the back. But they're like, oh, that's where the cougar lived. And we're like, what are you talking about? She's like, yeah, she had a cougar in her backyard, and she also had a crocodile at one point. And I was just like, she was just collecting animals. Like, isn't that like illegal? I feel like. And she was like, but it was like the 70s, and people didn't care then. So
yeah, and I think she had rescued them or something. You know, it wasn't like, hey, I want to get an alligator. Somebody had an alligator, I need somewhere to go, so she took it in because she was like a wildlife person.
Yeah,
but yeah, when
okay.
I was gonna say, just when we heard those stories after you guys moved in, we were just like, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just want to mention something in the chat. Since I was pushed down, Marion. Hello, Marion. Thanks for listening. I was pushed down a set of stairs. It was in the suburbs of Philadelphia, and a Victorian that was made into apartments. I was on the second floor and just left my nephew's apartment, and I felt the push and down I went. Oh my gosh. Ooh. So she actually got pushed and it followed through. I hope you're okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's wild.
Marion, were you hurt? And how long ago was this? So we'll ever give her a second to it follows up there.
I was wondering like what the point of that. I mean, like I wonder if I think the movie The Others put it the best, like as far as like how ghosts work is like they don't understand that you're not threatening them because they don't see you. Like they don't see you as what you are. They see you as an intruder in their house that they don't personally understand. And I think that's the coolest way to kind of present that is like like the ghosts are just like, what are these noises in my house? Like, is this house haunted? And you're like, no, you're the ghost. It's like, what? I just thought that was like
I think that's what happened to me. So we stayed in a haunted hotel room in Winnipeg for my birthday one year. My husband's from Winnipeg. So there's this really big hotel called the Fort Garry Hotel. And it was built as a railway hotel, sort of turn of the century. So it's this like ridiculously ornate, huge, fancy hotel. And one of the rooms is notorious for being haunted. So we booked it because of course we did.
Of course.
And we also booked the adjoining room because my son's really into the spooky stuff. My daughter isn't so much. So my husband and my daughter stayed in the non-haunted room, and me and my son stayed in the haunted room. And he had like one of these little ghost hunting kits that he got off eBay with like the little EMF thing and all that kind of. I think he was about one at the time, so he was having a whale of a time going around trying to find ghosts in this hotel room. And he was a bit disappointed because nothing happened. He didn't find any kind of like
your son rules.
He didn't find anything, so he was a bit disappointed. So we went off to sleep. And it's like a super nice hotel. So even if there's no ghost, you're still going to have nice
It's still a nice time, yeah.
So we went off to sleep. And then I woke up pulling the covers up to my chin like that because they were being pulled away from me. And I get so cranky when I get woken up. So all I'm feeling is something pulling the covers off me. And I'm pulling it back. I'm leave me alone kind of thing. It's 3 a.m. Like, just quit it. And then I woke up properly. Everybody else was asleep. So I was just kind of like, oh, okay.
Never mind. Do what you want.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't want to wake up my son and freak him out. Like, hey, guess what? A ghost just woke me up. Because then
he would have been pumped. He would have popped out of bed with his EMF and be like, "Where's he at?"
So, yeah, I just kind of lay awake for ages, terrified.
Well, yeah.
And then eventually fell back asleep again. And then, of course, my son was a bit upset that he'd missed out on the whole ghost thing. And I was like, no, trust me, it sucked. Like,
it's not as cool in person.
Yeah. But it was strange because the only other thing I remember about it is that I felt a really cold spot right there next to my face, like as I was waking up. So I don't really know. Because I was asleep, I feel like I'm an unreliable witness. Because the whole thing might have just been a dream and I might have woken up. But I just remember pulling the covers up and like really yanking them. So I don't know. But apparently that's happened to a whole bunch of other people in the same hotel room.
Oh, that makes sense.
You say it's in Winnipeg? What's the name of
the
the hotel?
Fort Garry Hotel.
Fort Garry Hotel.
I'm trying to remember the room number. I think it was either 202 or 212, I think. But if you Google Fort Garry haunted room, there's like a whole bunch of stories about it.
I should be like to my wife, be like,
oh, it's 2 R's in Gary.
What 2 R's in Gary?
Yeah.
Just gotta be difficult, Canada.
Yeah.
So Marion just responded, his apartment was haunted. I wasn't hurt. Well, that's good that you weren't hurt.
Oh, that's good. You can't take me down. You should have just like taunted them, like, like, can't take me down. So that's probably not what you've been thinking. You're on the ground. You're like, why did I fall? Then you're like, gotta figure it out.
Her nephew keeps inviting her over. She doesn't go back. She's like, yeah, you know what?
I'm good. Your house is assaulting me. I don't know if you know that. Like, so you want to come over? We're doing like a charcuterie night. It's gonna be like soups and dips, and you're like, I'm good. Your house is trying to kill me and throw me down the stairs.
I've only ever had one other weird thing happen. Oh no, 2 other weird things happened to me. I don't know. Are we going to have time to do both?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, these were both in England. So my son, the spooky one, he wanted to go and visit this town called Eyam in Derbyshire. And Eyam became famous again during the pandemic because of what happened there during the plague. It was a tiny little village, and it's quite sort of isolated from everywhere else. And someone had ordered something or other from London, and it had brought the plague with it, and somebody got sick with the plague. And the local priest realized that if they went out to the next village, they were going to spread the plague. So the whole village agreed that they were going to just basically quarantine themselves and doomed themselves, really. But they didn't want to spread it elsewhere. So they all just stayed put and died, which is like super depressing.
Oh.
But everywhere you go, it's a beautiful village, but everywhere you go, there's a sign saying this many people died here. And then there's just random graves like by the side of the road and stuff. Like, because obviously the churchyard filled up, or people were just burying their dead, wherever they could.
Yeah, wherever they lay. That's wild.
It's like the worst story for me was one of the farms, and they all had like 10 kids back then. So the woman lost her husband and 7 of her children, and like one after the other, like every day someone in that family died, and she would have to go out and bury them. And it was like, how did this woman not go completely insane from grief? Like, I don't know.
I wonder if it's like one of those cause you see that stuff happen like now, where like people just live in like third world countries, and they're just like, I lost my. I'll bring it back even closer. I worked for this girl, and she lived in like a hard neighborhood, and she was so cool. I loved her. But she came in one day, and she was just like, I was like, how you doing? And she goes, oh. She's like, this boy that I've known since I was a kid, or since he was a little baby, died this morning. And she said it like it happens all the time. Like she was just, I mean, like, so people who live in like that kind of area, I wonder if like grief hits them the same way it does like us. They were just like, no, I see death like a lot. And, especially in like that time, they're probably just like, lost another kid. I mean, I'm sure that isn't how it is. Like, I lost another kid today, but like, I wonder if it's like different kind of grief. But I mean, I guess your baby's
not
still your baby.
Yeah, like not expected, but you understand that happens a lot.
Yeah.
It's
Surrounded by
uncommon
death
for us to lose kids, but
yeah. My neighbor said they lost. I mean, this is different, but they said they lost two of their dogs in the same week, like, but for different reasons. And I was just like, what? And they were just like, yeah, like one died of this, and then a couple days later, the other one just collapsed. And I'm just like, this is the most devastating thing that would ever. I mean, like, they came over because our dog had passed away, and they just came to like be with us and like, drink whiskey, and I fell asleep on the couch because it's just like so grief stricken. I was just like, I'm gonna drink myself to death. Sad day. But yeah, I was just that. I can't imagine like losing 7 of my children. Just like,
and then having to bury them yourself is just
because your husband's dead. Like you have to do that.
It's just awful. But yeah, so we went and stayed in this village because this is my son's idea of tourism.
Your son rules.
We stayed in the village pub. Oh, the Miners Arms, I think it was called. And they used the beer cellar as a temporary morgue, I think, at some point. It might have been during the plague. I don't know. It's an old pub. But so, of course, we stayed in the haunted pub in the haunted village.
That's awesome.
I got woken up in the night by this like really high-pitched noise, and I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. And of course, my daughter and me were sharing a room, and she slept through it. I was sort of stumbling around in the dark trying to figure out, because I thought maybe it was somebody's house alarm going on outside, but then I realized it was coming from inside the room. And I was stumbling around trying to figure out what electronic thing was making this high-pitched whiny noise. And then it turned out it was the TV, which wasn't even on. So I don't know what that was about. I was just annoyed that why can't ghosts keep like more sociable hours? It's
Yeah.
Fine.
Is 3:30 like not a good time for you, or
does it always have to be after dark?
Yeah. Can
rude.
it just be daylight? Although daylight ghosts are kind of scary if you think about it.
Well, yeah. The Ring doorbell guy was at least, a more kind of sociable time. At least I was already awake, so that was good.
My daughter got to experience. You know how if you fill a toilet up, like it'll just flush on its own.
Does it?
Yeah, like if you just like fill it with water, like dump out some like if you have like dirty water or something, you put it in the toilet. Like if it gets high enough, it just like physics will take over and just flush it itself. Well, my daughter didn't know that, and she was like cleaning up this mess that she had made, and she was just like putting water in it, and she's just I'm down here, and she's Dad. It's like ran upstairs. Like, what? She got the toilet flushed on its own, and I was just like. That happens. It's actually it's pretty common, and I had to kind of explain it to her, but I felt bad that she just she just got totally freaked out. Which, by the way, at the same time, she because the thing she was cleaning up was she made slime, and she had bubbles all in her hair. I mean, in the most comedic way, bubbles in her hair. Like think of what it looks like if somebody purposely puts bubbles in their hair. That's what she looked like when she was terrified. That's like, you're fine. Also, why do you look like that? She goes, I just wanted to see what it looked like with bubbles in my But you can't leave that girl untethered for too long. She will break your house. Actually, I heard water dripping into my office. Like I heard, and I just like ran upstairs, like, what is going on? She goes, I just kind of clean up. I was like, why is there water dripping in the basement? And luckily it wasn't a pipe or anything. She just like was cleaning up in a weird way. And like the water had gone on an actual hole that's like underneath my sink. It's like through the pipe. So it was adjacent to the pipe on the outside versus, so it just kind of, I'm in the basement. So it's not like there's no walls in between it. It's just straight down. So I was just like, oh my God, I was just hoping a pipe didn't burst randomly, and and it's also above all my expensive equipment, so that would have not been fun. Oh, sorry, I interrupted your story.
Oh yeah, that was pretty much for the EAM one. That's done. It wasn't. I mean, it was just a fairly minor weird noise in the night that I don't know where it was coming from, but it's also technology related. But the only other spooky experience I've had. So Astonishing Legends did an episode on crop circles. So I said to this was when I was still living in England. So I said to some of my Astonishing Legends friends, there was Alex, Kat, and Matt. I said, let's go to Wiltshire and find a crop circle. It'll be fun, like a fun day out. So they're like, yeah, let's do it. So our plan was basically to just drive around and find a crop circle. And we started off at the pub, because that's how you start any day, right? We were having lunch in the pub, and I was like, I'm going to talk to the landlady, because pub people always know everything that's going on. So like, where are the crop circles? And she was like, oh, like look here and look there. So we went and found a crop circle, and we got to stand in a crop circle. Super fun. I don't know if it was a real one or a fake one or what, but it was a circle in some crops, and it was kind of shaped like a crosshair, actually. So if the aliens did do it, I'm a bit worried, because
yeah.
But when we'd seen here, when we'd seen that, it's like, what do we do now? And I said, oh, I know, like a really cool Neolithic burial mound. Let's go and visit it. So we went off, and it's called Whan Smithy. It might not be Neolithic, it might be Iron Age. Anyway, it's old. And it's just this big long burial mound, and the front of it's got these rocks sort of lined up like a door shape. I don't know if there's anyone still buried there, because when they excavated it, it was kind of pre-good archaeology. So they probably locked it up and made it big mess. It's still a really cool site. And you can go inside a little way. You can't go all the way in, but you can go inside, and it's like this little weird man-made cave bit. So we all took it in turns to go in, and each of us had a different weird experience.
What?
Yeah. You'd have to ask Kat and Alex and Matt about theirs, because I can't remember exactly. I'm going to get them to comment on this. But one of them did say when they went inside, all the noise faded away. And like this place is surrounded by trees, so there's tree noises and birds and all that kind of thing. And when they went in, they said they couldn't hear anything at all. But when I went in, my ears popped like I was on a plane.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was like a sudden pressure change.
Yeah.
And it's a little step down, but it's not enough of a step for the air pressure.
Yeah. You shouldn't have to bring chewing gum into it.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, that's weird. And when I came out and just sort of like sticking my fingers in my ears and like blowing and all that stuff, trying to get them to pop back out again. It was just the weirdest thing. And like everyone that went in said this place is creepy and something weird happened. Alex took a photo that had a weird green glowy light in it, which was quite cool. He's a photographer, so he might have some kind of technical explanation for that. I don't know.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? What was this place called again?
Whan Smithy.
Whan Smithy.
It's some I think he was like a sort of legendary blacksmith type, and that was supposed to be his forge or something. It's like some old legend, but it's around the sort of Wiltshire, Oxfordshire area, which is near Stonehenge and where all the crop circles are, and like all the cool weird stuff happens around there. There's a lot of Neolithic sites.
Oh yeah, I got a picture of it right here.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I looked it up, got it up on Google.
I love the modernization of the idea behind Stonehenge is like so mediocre because it's like so close to the road.
Yeah,
you were like, you go there, you're like, oh, and it's like smaller than you think, and it's also like if you just turn, there's like the highway. It's like every photo is taken from like a specific angle to show that it's not like in a residential area.
They've been talking about digging a tunnel for years to like improve the look of the landscape. I don't know if it's ever going to happen or not. But if you go to Avebury Stone Circle, that's way better because for a start, there is a pub in the middle.
Oh, there you go.
And so, and secondly, it's huge, and the stones are huge, and you can go right up to them and touch them, which you can't do at Stonehenge because it's all fenced off.
Well, yeah,
it doesn't have the cool what are they called? The trip. I forget the word for it. There's a technical word for it. It doesn't have those. They're just really giant, big stones.
Oh, okay.
But
you mean they're not like stacked?
No, they're not stacked. And there's no, I know in Stonehenge there's a stone in the middle, and the people used to say it was used for human sacrifice and all that stuff. There's nothing like that in the middle of Avebury, apart from there's an actual village in the middle of the stone circle.
They're just like, look at these cool rocks, and you're like, oh, cool. And we're like, no, let's go ahead and drink, and then we'll come back to the rocks, and then we'll actually think they're cool.
I feel like everyone should visit Stonehenge, but it is not as cool as you'd think. Like I remember the first time I went, I was like, oh, it's small, like not Spinal Tap small, but still like smaller than you think. And then but there's like that part of the UK has so much cool stuff. Like you could spend days there visiting all the weird places. And
are you saying we don't have all those cool things in Ohio?
I love the cool stuff. This is right. I do not know if there's more weird stuff in the US or whether there's just more coverage of it, but there's so much weird stuff. Like
we might just have more weird people.
I don't know.
It might just come down to mental health. If you think about it hard enough, we need free healthcare. That's what it comes down to.
Or maybe it's just like a difference in attitude. Because if you go to literally any old pub in England and say, "Oh, have you got a ghost?" They'll be like, "Oh yeah, old Fred, he moves stuff around," and it's just like,
maybe it's just not monopolized as much like over there because everything's old and has
so
like
everything
history, and like here it's just like we've bulldozed all that stuff, so it's just like, you know, we've paved over it all. It's just like the Eddie Izzard joke. He's just like, this building's over 50 years old. No one was alive then. Like it's just like we have no concept of like history and like having that anymore. So it's just, it might just be like they take it very like, yeah, this building's been around since the 1600s. Of course there's ghosts here. It's like we have stuff that's from the 1800s and we go like, well, of course that's haunted, but like we have so little of that. It's usually like 1970s is when we had, and then now it's like everything was built like 5 years ago and it's falling apart.
Like we know like everybody who's lived in the houses that were, you know, like because they're not old.
Yeah. So maybe it's just the fact that we have, when we do have something that's like strange, we highlight it so aggressively that you hear about it. Whereas like I haven't even heard about any of the things you said to me, like, you know, like the stone and stuff like that. So I just, you know, so it might just be that, or there's a lot more stuff going on over there in such a condensed area that it just kind of became like, I don't know. Also, like I feel like maybe in America I don't know what I'm trying to say really, but I feel like everything like feels a little alien to us when it comes to like overseas, because we just aren't geographically like IQ'd. We don't have the IQ of like geography where we're like, oh yeah, Worcestershire, and you know, barely say other people's names. We're not.
I should probably explain where Wiltshire is then. So it's like west of London and south a bit. Like if you drove 2-3 hours west of London, you'd be in that kind of area. It's nice there. It's beautiful. It's full of rich people though, so you couldn't move there.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well,
we wouldn't be welcome there.
I'm working on it.
Like they allow tourists, but they want you to leave at the end of the day.
Are you? Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I feel like there's more cryptids in the US, and England's more ghosts. There's a lot of monk ghosts and nuns. There's tons of monk and nun ghosts in England, and like
I wonder if we have more, or we have like, it might be this, because a lot of them I'm like, that's just kind of a Bigfoot, you know, like because some of them are like, it was a big tall Bigfoot and they just call it something else, or maybe it's just like miscited. I mean, I've seen, there's a really cool story about like the big praying mantis that's like pretty cool that was like seen, and you know, things like that. I always think those stories are really interesting, but I don't know if we have more. I mean, a lot of them are condensed into Ohio specifically. I mean, Ohio and like Tennessee, which is right below us. But yeah, it's like where we're at is, which is funny because me and you, Brian, we joke about like, oh, you know, I can't believe a Bigfoot was seen, you know, like by us. We're like, but that's where they all are. They're all here, you know. And you know, maybe it's just
I guess we're just thinking more local, like literally where we're at in our town. You know?
Yeah, like we usually we don't think we can like drive there within the 25 minutes, but apparently we can. I don't know. I don't know. I wonder if it's a psychological thing or if it's actually like, you know, like legit. They're all just hanging out in America. I mean, could have a lot to do with like, you know, Indian culture, or sorry, Native American culture. that kind of being very spiritual and nature based, and them the same way when you cut down a forest and the deer move, were the last, like, not the last, like a lot of South America isn't inhabited, but or I can't speak to that. I actually don't know that at all. But like, they kind of got pushed to America. The Americas, like, eventually, like, well, there's a bunch of people there, so we'll just go here. They take I think, what is it, the top, what's that called? They think there was like a land bridge at some point.
Oh, like the Bering Strait.
Yeah, like maybe they're kind of migrated, and they're like, so they just hung out here. Then all of a sudden, we popped up again, and it's like, you guys again. You guys are everywhere.
Yeah. It's funny.
You have a flag.
I always used to wonder about Bigfoot. Like, if Bigfoot was real, how come more people haven't seen him? And then I saw maps of, like, the huge uninhabited forest. I'm like, oh, that's actually the size of my country. So there could be something in there. Who knows?
Yeah, if you take like one trip down, like, south, like from where we live to, like, just down America, you will it's just seas of trees. Like, I mean, like, it's thick too, and you're like, you can't even see the ground. It's just, I mean, just huge valleys of trees, and you're like, oh, like, because usually I just think about where I live, and I'm like, how can they hide? And then you see, like, just a whole ecosystem that's just empty. Like, no one's living there. There's not a single person to be seen. There's so many places to hide. And honestly, like, so I was on team, well, actually, I wasn't really on a team no Bigfoot. I was just kind of on team, like, I don't really regard it at all, and then I would listen to the Dungeon Legends episodes, and I was like, oh, you know what, I'm kind of on, I was actually, like, on board after that. I was like, you know what, there's actually a little bit of there's some wiggle room there. So I was just like, you know what, why not? That's cool. And then, we doing this, we've talked to just some people, and going to our Bigfoot festivals and stuff to have some fun. We've just heard so many people just, like, tell us, like, their stories. And, like, when you hear the stories, you're like, I mean, okay. Because those are good. These aren't people, like, trying to lie to you. They're just, I mean, obviously everybody's got a story, and you want to be interesting in those things. But I mean, they're counting things that are just, like, terrifying, and they're not like, oh, this was really fun, right? Even though I'm reacting that way, like, no way. And they're like, actually, it was very serious, and I'm like, oh, sorry. Maybe tone it down a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just, same thing with ghost stories. It's like, I have no reason to not believe you. You saw what you saw. You felt how you felt. I saw what I saw. I don't know. It's fun. It's fun. We're here to have fun.
That's the weirdness is what makes it so interesting.
Yeah. Well, Casss, I know you have a party to host, so I'm going to be respectful of your time and your heart out. I don't know if you have people knocking on your door, like, where is she?
Well, I do have the Ring doorbell, so I can always.
Yeah, you'll know when they show up.
Yeah. If they're dressed in work clothes, don't answer it, or do and pay more attention and run there immediately. Like, who are you? They'll be like,
I'll take screenshots next time.
Yeah, good call. It'll delete it. It doesn't matter. All right. Well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your time. And have a red Friday. Everybody for joining us. I appreciate you as well. So the Kitchen to Conversation is over. Thank you so much. Join us every Friday at 5:00 on YouTube. We're hanging out. We're doing the fun stuff. We're here for some good old fashioned tomfoolery. And you know what? Thank you so much. All right. See you guys.
Bye, Casss.
Bye.
Bye, Casss. Bye.